We are counting down 20 time-tested gardening tricks, each chosen to help you harvest more food while working less. From old-world, time-tested mulching methods that can nearly erase weeding, to plant partnerships that build richer soil, these techniques make the most of nature and the seasons. Some of these approaches will surprise you with how much water or labor they save, while others show how healthy soil and smart crop choice can do the heavy lifting for you. Let us begin with the biggest, all-round labor saver at number 1. Number 1. Thick no-dig hay mulch transforms the hardest part of gardening into the easiest. By laying down 8 to 12 inches of spoiled hay right on top of the soil, weeds are smothered before they ever see sunlight. This simple blanket can block up to 95% of unwanted growth, cutting weeding chores to a fraction. The soil beneath stays moist 2 to 3 times longer than bare ground, so watering becomes rare, even during summer heat. Over 6 to 12 months, that hay quietly breaks down, feeding earthworms and turning into dark, crumbly topsoil. There is no need to dig, till, or even compost separately. Just keep the mulch topped up as it settles, and the garden bed does the work for you. This approach, made famous by Ruth Stout, lets nature handle the heavy lifting, giving you more food with less effort season after season. In second place, unglazed clay ollas turn watering from a daily chore into a weekly afterthought. These simple porous pots work quietly with the soil. They are buried up to their necks between plants and then filled with water. Over the next several days, moisture seeps gently through the clay walls, feeding roots directly where they need it most. The soil stays evenly moist within a 2 to 3 foot radius, while the surface remains dry, so weeds struggle and evaporation is nearly eliminated. Most gardeners find they refill ollas just once or twice a week, even in summer heat, reducing water use by 70 to 90% compared to hand watering. Building your own is straightforward. Seal 2 terracotta pots together and plug the bottom hole. No special tools are required. This ancient, passive method quietly supports healthy roots and thriving plants, letting you step away from the hose and trust the garden to take care of itself. Third on our list is the Three Sisters companion planting method. It weaves together corn, beans, and squash, so each plant does the heavy lifting for the others. Corn rises first, forming a living pole for climbing beans. As the beans spiral upward, their roots quietly capture nitrogen from the air, feeding themselves, the corn, and the squash. Once the corn stands tall, plant the squash. Its broad leaves soon sprawl across the ground, shading out weeds and locking in soil moisture. This ancient system, passed down by indigenous farmers, means less staking, less fertilizing, and far fewer weeds to pull. Planting is staggered, corn first, beans a week later, squash last, so each plant finds its place. The result is a self-sustaining guild where structure, fertility, and weed control all come from the plants themselves. Succession. Planting keeps the harvest coming without overwhelming the gardener. With a few simple shifts in timing, a single bed can feed you steadily over months. Instead of sowing an entire row of lettuce or radishes at once, plant small batches every week or every 10 days. This gentle cadence lets quick crops like radish, which can mature in as little as 25 days, be picked fresh again and again from the same bed. Lettuce, arugula, and other fast growers follow the same rhythm, allowing 2 or even 3 rounds in a single season. By spreading out the work, there are no sudden gluts to process or waste, and each picking stays manageable. Beds remain productive, and the harvest window stretches from early spring through late fall. This quiet practice evens out both labor and food, so the garden feels abundant but never exhausting. The only thing we promote on this channel is our own book, written from the way our grandparents actually lived. Before gardening became complicated, they grew food a little at a time, every day. For them, 30 minutes was enough. So that's why we turned that forgotten knowledge into the 30-minute-a-day garden, a practical guide based on what real families did to stay fed, resilient, and independent. Simply click the first link in the description, or if you're watching on TV, scan the QR code in the right corner. because once this knowledge is gone, it's gone for good. Tip 5. Deep, infrequent watering transforms thirsty gardens into low-maintenance plots. Instead of sprinkling the surface each day, give plants a single, slow soak every 5 to 7 days. Let the water move down 6 to 8 inches to the zone where roots live and feed. This encourages roots to grow downward, and those deep roots make plants steadier through dry weather and less dependent on daily attention. Check moisture with a finger or a small trowel. When the soil is damp well below the surface, the job is done. If the top inch is dry, but the deeper soil is moist, wait longer before the next soak. Over time, deep-rooted plants can reach water that shallow roots miss. A long, thorough drink routinely outperforms frequent light watering, producing healthier plants and less work for the gardener. This is simple, effective water care that saves time and builds resilience. Tip 6. Cardboard sheet mulch paths offers a simple, low-effort way to keep weeds out of garden walkways. Start by flattening cardboard boxes and laying them right over grass or bare soil. Overlap the edges so light cannot sneak through, then wet the cardboard to help it settle. Cover the cardboard with a generous layer of straw or wood chips. Most gardeners find a single layer topped with mulch keeps paths clear for an entire season. As the cardboard breaks down over 6 to 8 months, moisture and soil life move in. It draws worms and other helpers, which loosen the ground and cycle nutrients. That process turns even compacted walkways into richer, softer soil over time. This method blocks sunlight so weed seeds stay in the dark. It holds moisture so paths need less watering, and it uses materials that would otherwise be waste. It also spares knees and hands from endless weeding. For tidy, low-maintenance paths between beds, cardboard is a quiet, traditional trick that gives quick results with almost no cost. Direct sowing lets seeds start and finish right where they will grow, sidestepping the need for nursery trays or transplanting. Instead of fussing with indoor lights or hardening off, seeds such as carrots, peas, and beans are tucked straight into prepared beds once the soil warms. Their roots push down undisturbed, anchoring deeply and drawing up nutrients from the start. This cuts out an entire stage of gardening chores, no more juggling seedling schedules or rescuing root-bound plants. For best results, loosen the top few inches of soil and smooth the surface so seeds make even contact. A gentle watering settles them in, and nature handles the rest. By skipping the transplant step, plants grow stronger and adapt faster, while gardeners reclaim hours usually spent shuffling pots and trays indoors. Number 8. Raised beds bring the garden up to where hands and knees can reach without strain. By framing soil in a contained space, often 4 feet by 8 feet, plants can be spaced 10 to 15% closer than in open ground. This tighter layout means more harvest from every square foot, with less wasted space between rows. The soil inside a raised bed warms earlier in spring and drains more freely after heavy rain, giving seeds and roots a head start. Because the bed edges define clear paths, gardeners avoid stepping on growing areas, keeping soil loose and easy to work. Less bending and fewer weeds make tending and harvesting less of a chore. Over time, the organized structure supports denser planting and even living mulches, multiplying yields while reducing effort. Number 9. Close planting transforms empty soil into a living shield. When you let plant canopies touch and overlap, the ground below stays in near constant shade. That simple adjustment keeps sunlight from reaching weed seeds, cutting down on weeding almost as much as a thick mulch. Moisture lingers longer in the cool, shaded soil, so watering needs fall and plants suffer less heat stress. Leafy greens, bush beans, and carrots do especially well in these tight communities, their leaves forming a dense layer just above the earth. This living mulch means less bare ground and fewer chores. Over time, the garden floor becomes covered not with weeds, but with living, productive plants. Bio-intensive spacing, a traditional small garden method, relies on this principle, packing crops close enough that their leaves act as a natural barrier protecting their roots. Tip 10. Composting right where you prune, often called chop and drop, lets the garden feed itself with almost no extra work. Instead of hauling trimmings to a pile or bin, soft stems and leaves are simply cut and left to rest on the soil beneath the plants that grew them. Over weeks and months, those pieces break down where they lie, returning nutrients to the ground and building rich, crumbly soil. Regular, small additions of plant matter keep the surface covered like a living mulch and encourage earthworms and microbes to thrive just below. There is no need to turn piles or move heavy loads. Nature handles the recycling on its own schedule. A simple habit, done often, changes the garden. Over time, this gentle routine steadily improves soil tilth, making each season's growth easier and a little more abundant than the last. Perennials and self-seeding varieties quietly take the hardest work out of gardening. Once established, plants like asparagus, rhubarb, berry bushes, and hardy herbs return year after year without replanting. Many of these perennials can produce for 10 years or more with only seasonal pruning and mulch, delivering reliable harvests from the same patch of soil. By filling beds with these dependable growers, the need for annual digging, sowing, and bed preparation slowly fades away. Self-seeding annuals such as dill, cilantro, and some salad greens scatter their own seed at the end of each season, sprouting fresh growth each spring with no extra effort. These plants also help cover the soil and feed its life, allowing the ground to rest and recover while still offering a steady supply of food. Investing once in perennials and self-seeding varieties is a patient choice, but the rewards multiply with every passing season. Number 12. Save seed from the strongest plants. Over time, this simple habit quietly builds a more resilient garden. When fruits or pods ripen, choose the healthiest and most productive plants and allow their seeds to dry fully on the plant if possible. If drying must be finished indoors, use a clean, airy space so seeds dry slowly and evenly. Once dry, store them in a cool, dry place. A simple paper envelope labeled with the variety and year keeps everything organized and ready for next spring. Over 2 or 3 generations, saved seed begins adapting to local soil and climate, often outperforming store-bought seed. This practice reduces seed costs and creates a self-sustaining cycle. Plants grown from saved seed are more likely to thrive, resist local pests, and yield abundantly. With proper storage, many seeds remain viable for years, allowing you to build a living legacy uniquely suited to your garden. Number 13. Kitchen and fireplace leftovers offer a thrifty way to feed the garden without spending a cent. Small wastes become garden food when you let the soil do the work. Banana peels tucked under tomato plants provide a slow, steady dose of potassium that helps fruit set and ripen. Coffee grounds scattered lightly around acid-loving plants like blueberries add nitrogen and gently lower soil pH. Crushed eggshells placed near peppers or squash break down to release calcium, helping prevent blossom end rot. A small handful of clean wood ash adds potassium and trace minerals, though it should be kept away from acid-loving crops. Use scraps sparingly, scatter thin layers, cover them with soil, and let soil life do the work. Each scrap fills a specific nutrient gap, allowing targeted feeding where it is needed most. Turning yesterday's breakfast into tomorrow's harvest quietly closes the household loop. Tip 14. Solarize beds to quiet weed seeds. Solarizing uses the sun's heat as a natural tool. During the hottest stretch of summer, clear plastic sheeting is stretched tightly over moist soil and sealed at the edges to trap heat. Left in place for 4 to 6 weeks, sunlight raises temperatures in the top soil layers high enough to kill many weed seeds and reduce certain soil-borne diseases. Moist soil carries heat deeper, making the process more effective. Once the plastic is removed, beds are left cleaner and easier to manage, with far fewer weeds for the rest of the season. Solarization requires one well-timed effort, but delivers months of reduced labor. For gardeners avoiding chemicals, this quiet, traditional method prepares soil for easier planting. Number 15. Rotation of crop families and letting beds rest breaks the cycle of disease and nutrient drain before it starts. Each year, vegetables from the same family, for example, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, move to a new bed, while another patch sits empty or grows a soil-building cover crop. This simple 3-year pattern means that pests and soil-borne diseases, which thrive when the same crops stay put, lose their grip. Over time, rotation can cut soil disease problems by nearly half, and the soil in rested beds recovers strength for the next round. Typical groupings, nightshades, brassicas, and roots make planning easy. A garden calendar or a simple sketch helps keep track. By folding rotation into the yearly rhythm, the soil stays healthier and yields stay steady, all with less fertilizer and fewer setbacks. This quiet discipline sets the stage for even richer soil when cover crops come into play. Tip 16. Cover crops and green manures act as a living shield for soil between food crops, quietly rebuilding structure and adding organic matter with very little effort. Fast-growing plants like oats, mustard, or daikon radish are sown after harvest or before spring planting, filling bare beds with dense growth that blocks weeds and holds moisture. As these covers grow, their roots loosen compacted ground and draw nutrients from deeper layers, bringing them back toward the surface where the next season's plants can use them. When it is time to plant again, many home gardeners simply crimp or cut the cover down and leave the residue in place as a thick mulch. That single step can supply 2 to 4 inches of organic cover in one season, feeding earthworms and soil microbes as it slowly breaks down. By timing these plantings to fill seasonal gaps, beds stay covered and refreshed, all without tilling or hauling compost. The result is richer soil and fewer weeds, and a gentler path to the next round of crops. 17th. Planting with the local weather and season turns guesswork into quiet confidence. Waiting for natural windows like the last spring frost or the first cool stretch in autumn gives seeds and seedlings a better start without scrambling for emergency covers. Cool season crops such as peas and spinach do best when sown before a stretch of mild, wet days. Letting forecast rain settle them often saves a round of watering. Warm season plants like tomatoes and beans wait until the soil holds warmth overnight, avoiding cold snaps that can stunt young growth. Observe local frost and rain patterns even for a single year. Those rhythms guide when to sow, when to transplant, and when to let beds rest. The result is fewer wasted seeds, less replanting, and a garden that grows in harmony with its climate, never rushed, never left behind. Tip 18. Vertical growing and simple trellising. Turn a flat garden into a productive wall of food by training climbing crops such as peas, cucumbers, or even small melons to grow upward on sturdy supports. When plants climb, every square foot of ground is freed for more planting, and you can fit more vegetables into the same space. A simple trellis can be built from stakes and twine, from wire fencing, or from salvaged branches lashed together. This approach multiplies yield in tight spots, and it also improves AIR flow around the leaves, which cuts down on rot and helps fruit ripen sooner. Harvesting becomes easier, with fruit hanging cleanly and visible instead of hidden on the ground. For gardeners with limited space or heavy soils, vertical supports offer a practical way to increase output with little extra work. The garden gains a new dimension, and each harvest comes with less bending and searching. Tip 19. Straw bale gardening creates an instant raised bed with almost no digging or heavy lifting. Each bale, once soaked and conditioned for about 2 weeks, becomes both a growing medium and a slow-release compost pile. The bales warm quickly in spring, giving crops like tomatoes, peppers, and beans a head start even in cooler weather. Over the months, roots weave through the straw as it softens and breaks down, and by the end of the season, that straw is turning into rich, dark soil. Watering is simple because bales hold moisture deep inside, so you need to check them less often and water more slowly when you do. For renters or anyone needing a portable garden, set bales on a patio, a driveway, or over poor soil, then move them or spread the material as compost when the season ends. This is a traditional low-effort way to extend your growing space and to make organic matter ready for next year's beds. Number 20. Choosing low-maintenance, high-yield crops seals the gains from every other technique. Potatoes and winter squash thrive with little attention, producing heavy harvests even in less than ideal soil. Swiss chard, bush beans, and peppers offer steady returns through heat, drought, and neglect. These familiar plants repay a small amount of care many times over, rather than asking for constant attention. Reliable varieties keep giving, season after season. Some store energy in roots or tubers, others keep producing leaves and pods, so a single planting can feed you for weeks. That steady output is exactly what you want when your time is limited. Match your garden methods to the plants. Deep water the beds less often but thoroughly, mulch to hold moisture and suppress weeds, and give each crop the space and season it prefers. Let the soil rest and rebuild between heavy crops, and use kitchen scraps and compost to keep fertility gentle and steady. The result is more food per hour of care, a garden that nearly cares for itself, and the quiet assurance of plants chosen to work with you, not against you. Across all 20 gardening tricks, one pattern emerges. Abundance follows when we align with nature's rhythms instead of fighting them. Whether it is mulch, shielding the soil, or plants growing side by side, each method harnesses cooperation, not control. Today, low-effort gardening is not just possible. It is a return to wisdom that endures. Growing more with less reminds us that nature rewards those who listen.